Now, the one thing missing from my conversation with Peter was we didn't have any context or input from Aaron Rodgers, the guy who actually got hurt. So, of course, as usually happens in the media world, as soon as we finish that interview, Aaron Rodgers takes to his Instagram to mainly send a thank you message. Thanks to everybody that's reached out, called, texted, said, I'm completely heartbroken and moving through the emotions, which, as we touched on, you would expect for a guy in his position who knows his season's over before it really got started. All sounds extremely understandable. The big thing that is going to be a talking point from here is the second to last line of the Instagram message that said, "The night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again." Kind of maybe a little bit melodramatic, but obviously hints at what his future might be. I mean, you read that, and aside from making me think of a Florence and the Machine song, it makes me think that this is a guy who's going to at least try to return. And that shouldn't shock anybody. You know, Rodgers took a pay cut to be in New York and help them with their finances. It always made sense that he would give this more than 1 year. Now, I don't think anybody was counting on him having to come back from a very tricky injury to rehab from. I mean, think of what an Achilles injury is. I mean, you're planting your feet, torquing your body, using those muscles where your Achilles is, climbing the pocket, potentially scrambling. It's all kind of important for a quarterback. So doubt it's going to be easy for a guy in Aaron Rodgers' position. I'm certainly not betting against him, for the record. On top of that, we'll see what happens. I mean, he's got a long time to sit and think about this. The season has only just started. The other interesting factor of this is I don't think anybody had this in their notes for before we've even gotten to week 2, but the injury has started a very loud dialogue about whether NFL players should be playing games on turf in the first place. It started Monday night. David Bakhtiari, Rodgers' former teammate in Green Bay and his very, very close friend, David Bakhtiari, has long been very vocal that NFL players don't belong on artificial turf. It's unhealthy. It's bad for your joints. It has a higher chance of injuring players. And plenty of players have said this in the past, by the way. This is definitely not new. But the new wrinkle in this is that Wednesday, NFLPA Executive Director Lloyd Howell makes a statement that says moving all stadium fields to high-quality natural grass surfaces is the easiest decision the NFL can make. The statement is much longer. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You can find it on Twitter or whichever app you prefer, but he basically points out that NFL stadiums flip turf fields to grass all the time for FIFA soccer games because that is FIFA's standard for playing surfaces. And he says, if you can do it for the World Cup, if you can do it for a soccer exhibition, of course you can do it for an NFL game. This is worth the investment, and it simply needs to change now. For the record, I agree. I'm totally on board with that. I have no problem with it whatsoever if the players feel better. And we're seeing throughout the NFL, you're seeing a litany of players voice their support for this. DJ Reed, the Jets cornerback, came out and said the same thing after the game as well. So I have no problem with it from the standpoint of even if the players only feel safer on it, like I'm cool with it. And then you note that the data seems to back it up. No problem here. I just wonder, and again, I hate to be this guy, but yes, is it worth the investment? Sure. Is it a hell of an investment to make? And do I think you have an uphill battle convincing owners of that? I mean, keep in mind what all NFL stadiums do in a given year these days. I mean, you have 10 home NFL games in a 365-day calendar year. And now think about in this day and age, what does your local NFL stadium do the other days of the year? You've got Taylor Swift concerts, you've got soccer exhibitions, you've got college football games at a lot of these arenas, you've got exhibitions, boat shows or whatever happens on weekends in the off season. And having turf, I think, makes that easier because you're not having to replace the field every single time something happens at your stadium. You're not having to worry about rotating different rolls of sod or keeping it all healthy and keeping it all green. And like, I get it. I'm not saying that that's the way it should be, because again, if you can keep your team healthier, and like I talked about with Peter, if you can avoid an injury to a guy who's going to be the face of your team and the face of an entire season, it's worth it. But go convince the people that pay those bills that that's the case. I will be interested to see where this goes. I think sometimes I'm too cynical for my own good. I would be shocked if this gains a lot of movement anytime soon, but it could be the catalyst for a very interesting conversation. I think it's definitely something worth keeping your eye on.